It's like we're handing over the car keys to AI without giving it a single driving lesson. You know what I mean? It's exciting, but kind of risky at the same time. And speaking of risky, I know you're all about making sure AI doesn't turn into a rogue robot uprising.
Yeah, the need for some serious AI governance is more important now than ever, that's for sure.
Exactly. So we're putting on our sheriff hats today and taking a closer look at this new IBM thing, WatsonX.Governance. It's supposed to be the ultimate AI wrangler, but we're going to see if it really lives up to the hype.
Well, it's interesting. IBM isn't just trying to wrangle their own AI with this. It's like they want to create a universal remote control for the entire AI landscape. Even those big players, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, they're all in the mix.
Hold on, let me try to explain this to someone who hasn't been glued to the tech news all week. What exactly is WatsonX.Governance? Break it down for us.
Imagine a central command for everything AI within a company. Instead of AI projects being scattered everywhere with teams not knowing what others are doing, WatsonX.Governance brings it all together. It's a platform to monitor, manage, even direct how AI is developed and used.
So no more AI going rogue like some Frankenstein movie.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
And it's not just about preventing disasters either. It's about building a system where companies can actually use AI in a responsible and strategic way, understanding what they're getting into every step of the way.
And this is where it gets really interesting for you, the listener, especially if you're into the practical side of AI governance. We're not talking about some abstract theory here, but real tangible benefits. One of the big things WatsonX.Governance pushes is transparency, making sure you understand how AI is making decisions that affect you.
See, the real innovation here isn't just about being transparent for the sake of it. It's about establishing a common language for holding AI accountable. Think of it like nutrition labels, but for algorithms, helping us all make informed choices about the AI we're interacting with.
I love that analogy. So how does that actually work in practice?
They have this thing called a fact sheet that's created for every single AI model. Imagine being able to see your loan application's journey through an AI system, seeing which factors were considered and how it reached a decision. That's the kind of transparency WatsonX.Governance aims for, with these fact sheets putting everything out in the open in a way anyone can understand. And with all these new regulations popping up, like the EU AI Act, which sets strict rules for AI use, this is becoming more important than ever.
Okay, so that makes sense for like a loan application. But what about other areas where AI is being used? Does this apply across the board?
That's the really cool thing about this approach. It's not limited to one specific industry.
So we're talking finance, healthcare, education, the whole shebang.
Exactly. The need for responsible AI, it's everywhere, right?
No more AI black boxes then. That's a big deal. But is it really possible to get rid of them entirely? Even with something like WatsonX.Governance?
It's definitely a challenge, especially with how complex some of these AI models are getting. But that's what WatsonX.Governance is designed for. It gives you the tools to see and track the decision-making process, even for those really complex deep learning models that are usually totally opaque.
Okay, you've got my attention. But I gotta be honest, I'm a little skeptical too. This all sounds great. But is it too good to be true? Are we putting too much trust in technology to fix this?
That's a really important question. And it's something we should always be asking when technology tries to tackle something as messy as governance. WatsonX.Governance might have some powerful tools, but it's not some magic solution.
So what could go wrong? What should we be careful about?
Well, even the most advanced AI governance system is only as good as the information you feed it. If a company has bias in the way it collects data, no algorithm can magically make that bias disappear. It's like building a house on sand. The structure might look good, but it's still vulnerable.
Right, so it's not something you can just set up and forget about. You need people to keep an eye on things, to think critically about the data itself.
Exactly. And then there's the question of resources. Setting up and running these AI governance systems can be really complicated and expensive. It requires specialized knowledge that not every organization has just lying around. There's real risk that this kind of technology could actually widen the gap between bigger companies with tons of money and smaller ones.
That's a really important point, the potential for making existing inequalities worse. It reminds us that technology isn't neutral. We have to be aware of the wider social impact.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And even if a company invests in the technology and has the right people to use it, there's still the human factor. You need people within the company who understand not just the tech itself, but also the ethical side of AI.
So it's not just about having the right tools, but also about creating the right culture and mindset around AI inside a company.
Yes, actually. Technology can't solve the complexities of AI governance on its own. It's about building a system where technology and human judgment can work together.
Okay, so we've talked about the potential downsides, but what about the potential upsides? Are there any examples of WatsonX.Governance actually being used out there in the real world?
It's still early days, but the information we have does mention some interesting use cases. For example, in finance, companies are looking at WatsonX.Governance to help with things like credit risk assessments to make sure those decisions are fair and transparent.
Which, let's be real, is a huge deal. Being denied a loan because of a biased algorithm is a real concern these days.
For sure. And it's not just about being fair to the individual. It's about managing risk for the company, too. An algorithm that produces biased results could mean lawsuits, bad press, even regulatory action, especially with laws like the EU AI Act coming into effect.
So it's potentially a win-win. What about other examples?
The material also talks about uses in customer care. Think about those AI-powered chatbots. WatsonX.Governance can be used to monitor those interactions, making sure the chatbot is giving accurate and appropriate responses. It's about avoiding those PR disasters where a chatbot goes off the rails and things go viral.
We've all seen those headlines. It seems like the potential applications are pretty wide-ranging.
Definitely. The material even mentions supply chain management as another area where WatsonX.Governance is being explored. AI is being used more and more to optimize supply chains, but even there, transparency and ethics are essential.
So no more AI cutting corners on ethical sourcing just to save time or money.
That's the idea. And that's where a tool like this comes in. It lets you track those decisions, understand the factors being prioritized, and make sure those priorities actually align with the company's values.
It sounds like a really powerful tool for accountability, not just for individual AI, but for the companies using them. But let's get back to this idea of real-world adoption.
Right, so it's one thing to have promising technology, but it's another to see if the industry actually embraces it. And there does seem to be real interest in WatsonX.Governance. The information we have highlights companies like EY Tech Mahindra and NTT Data who have already signed on and are using the platform.
Those are some big names. Not exactly companies known for jumping on every tech trend, so that's got to be a good sign, right?
It definitely suggests there's a real need for this kind of solution. Whether WatsonX.Governance becomes the industry standard is still up in the air, but clearly IBM is onto something important here.
It's kind of wild when you think about it. We went from AI being this futuristic what if to it being everywhere practically overnight.
It's true. And with that speed comes a responsibility to make sure we're developing and using AI in a way that doesn't go off the rails.
Exactly. And that brings us back to the big question of this deep dive. Can something like WatsonX.Governance actually make AI more trustworthy?
The million-dollar question, right? I don't think there's an easy answer. It's not a simple yes or no. It's definitely a step in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, WatsonX.Governance offers a level of transparency and control we could only dream of before, but it's not a magic solution.
So it's a tool. And like any tool, it can be used for good or bad.
Exactly. And with AI, the stakes are higher than ever. We're talking about technologies that could completely change how industries work, how we live and work. But that power comes with a responsibility to be careful to think about the unintended consequences and to make sure AI is being used for the right reasons.
So where do we go from here? What's the next chapter in the AI saga?
That's what we all need to be thinking about. I think tools like WatsonX.Governance are crucial, but they're just one piece of a much bigger puzzle. We need to create a culture of responsible AI development, one that puts transparency, accountability, and ethics front and center at every step.
And that's a conversation that needs to happen everywhere, not just in Silicon Valley.
Absolutely. The future of AI isn't something that should be decided by a handful of tech companies. It's a conversation for everyone.
And on that note, we'll leave you with that thought to ponder. We've covered a lot of ground today, but this is really just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to AI and its role in our world.
A conversation that's only going to get more important as time goes on.
Couldn't agree more. If you're interested in learning more, be sure to check out the links to all the source material we used. We'll have those in the show notes. And as always, thanks for taking this deep dive with us.